So I wanted to talk about a term we're hearing more and more in the wine industry, and that's biodynamic. What it refers to really is a kind of agriculture, viticulture, that's used for growing grapes. And certainly we all know the term organic. And organic is if you're not using chemical fertilizers or man-made fertilizers or sprays to control pests or invigorate soils. So biodynamics takes that to another level. They look at the farm as a closed system, and they work with the idea that everything is in that closed system to keep the farm and the grapes really vibrant. If we step back a minute, we think about grape growing and how grape growing is different than other kind of farming. When you farm vegetables or other kinds of crops, one of the important steps that you take is you rotate the crops. So one year maybe you'll have corn, and another year maybe you'll have squash, and another year you'll have another crop in that same piece of land, because the rotation helps the soil to revitalize, or maybe you'll even just let the soil be for a time. When you grow grapes, you can't do that because you're planting the vines, and the vines stay there for years and years. So they're leaching out of the soil everything they can. What grape growers have to do is they have to bring back those some of those vital minerals. They have to try to control some of the pests that form, and so they have to use things from outside the farm. They have to bring in. In biodynamic farming, they don't do any of that. So maybe you've heard about this idea that they take a cow horn and they fill it with manure and they bury it in the ground. So yeah, so that's part of biodynamic farming. They're going to fill these cow horns with manure and bury them in the ground in winter. And the cow horn is just simply an organic container for the manure that's also porous. So it lets the microbes in the soil and the insects interact with that manure. When they dig it up, they find that this manure has turned into more like a humus, a topsoil kind of substance. And they mix it with water and they spray it on the vines, and it helps revitalize some of the things that the grapevines are pulling out. There are several of these treatments that they do, including another couple where they put it in a horn and bury it in the ground. I know, and it sounds crazy, but really the idea is that, as I say, you've got this closed system, everything's there, and if you keep everything vibrant and working together, then that's really all you need to make the best grapes. The other aspect of biodynamic farming is that a lot of the procedures are done based on the phases of the moon and the stars. Now that might sound a little spacey, but we all know that that the moon has great effects on the earth, and it certainly can affect people in different ways, full moon. But they make one of these preparations that they'll spray on the vines that they've used from some of these buried cow horns. Now, one of the preparations is to reduce the possibility of any mildews or funguses forming, right? And so when the moon is full, if you think about how when the moon is full, it draws the tides, right? So it does the same thing with the earth. If you have soils that have moisture in them, and the moon is full, it's going to draw that moisture up. And so when that moisture is drawn up, that's a time when it's more likely for these funguses or molds to form. So you're going to spray that preparation right before that happens, right? So that the vines are sort of fortified against that happening during this astrological phase. Another important aspect of biodynamic farming is cover crops. So if you think about grapevines, they're planted in rows, and they're usually, trellised to some degree. And then you have these rows in between. And if you have bare rows, where the tractors roll over and everything, you have a lot of compaction of the soil. And ultimately, that's not a good thing because it causes a lot of runoff and different things can occur. So what they do in biodynamic farming is they'll have cover crops in between the rows. Now, the other thing about the cover crops is, depending on what you select, they can also bring different things to the soil that the grapevines need. So there's a very careful determination about what kind of cover crops, how much cover crop you need, and how it's going to interact with your grapevines. So again, you're looking at this closed system, this holistic system, where all of the plants and animals are working together to keep it vibrant. So I mentioned how the compacting of the soil can be a problem because it doesn't allow moisture to absorb. So one of the other ways that they counteract that in biodynamic farming is they'll try to draw earthworms, insects into the soil, because they'll drill into the soil and they'll create they'll aerate it and just sort of make it a little more able to absorb moisture and to work much better with the vines and with the plants and everything that's happening in your vineyard. So just to wrap up here, I mean, the idea is we're talking about letting the microbes, the insects, all the plants, everything that's in this farm, all work together to bring the most vibrant and intensely flavored, good quality grapes. And that's what a lot of these vintners and grape growers are doing and have discovered. And I don't think we're ever going to go back. I think we're going to start to see more and more of this as we go forward, because it just seems like it's something that works.